In December of every single year, I start seeing the same photo thrown around. Just like the streams of Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas, it's like an unavoidable tradition. That photo is this. It's usually always followed by some sort of caption. Something like, POV, it's 2013 and this heat just dropped. Or, if you weren't around in 2013, you wouldn't understand. Or basically any typical caption of someone who is clearly trying to evoke nostalgia from sneakerheads. But the more I see this photo and read the comments of nostalgic consumers, the more I start to wonder, what happened to the hype around Christmas sneakers? As corny as the captions for this photo can be, they aren't wrong. Me personally, I actually remember exactly where I was when I saw this photo for the first time. I was in the 6th grade at a morning meeting, a very weird assembly thing that my school did every day, and a friend of mine had been showing the image to everyone, mostly pointing out how sick the KDs were. Clearly, it left some sort of impression on me because that moment is still so clear in my head. So, is it just the younger generation of sneakerheads experiencing true sneaker nostalgia for the first time? Or were those sneaker drops just more iconic back then? Today we're doing a deep dive into Christmas-themed sneakers in hopes to determine whether they've truly lost their luster or if nostalgia kicks simply have a hold on us. If you guys haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing because it helps out a ton, and I'm actually less than 1,000 subscribers away from hitting 10K, which is an amazing milestone, and when I hit 10,000, I'm giving one of my first 10,000 subscribers a free pair of AE1 lows, so don't miss out on that giveaway. All you gotta do is subscribe and enjoy the rest of the video. In 1947, the first ever NBA Christmas Day game was played. The game was between the New York Knicks and the Providence Steamrollers at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks steamrolled the Steamrollers 89-75. This marked the beginning of one of the NBA's best traditions, NBA Christmas Day. What you may not realize, however, is that it wasn't until 2008 that the NBA Christmas Day games truly hit their stride. That's because, starting in 2008, the NBA would eliminate the random amount of games played on Christmas Day each year, and instead start scheduling 5 games each year. These 5 games typically feature a NBA Finals or Conference Finals rematch, a rivalry, and as many previous MVPs or All-Stars as possible. Oh, and the Lakers. Literally always the Lakers. Because these 5 games are hand-selected by the NBA to get the best ratings, NBA Christmas Day becomes more than just another slate of standard NBA games. It's now a part of the holiday festivities, at least for us sports fans. In 2009, a key rule was lifted that made NBA Christmas games even more fun, a rule that many have either forgotten about or never knew existed. Up until 2008, NBA players were required to wear predominantly black or white sneakers during NBA Christmas Day games. This meant that the sneakers that NBA players would typically wear never really stood out. In fact, nobody really cared about NBA Christmas sneakers. But in 2009, all of a sudden, new possibilities arose. Unfortunately, sneaker brands barely dipped their toes in the water for this first year. While Nike released some colorful-ish kicks for Christmas, they still seemed very toned down and kind of like they were afraid to fully commit to the rule change. But in 2010, that all came crashing down. On Christmas Day, 2010, Kobe Bryant stepped onto the court in a pair of shoes that would break the internet. However, nobody knew at the time that these sneakers would be so unbelievably iconic that even 14 years later they'd be one of the most worn sneakers in the NBA. This was the Kobe 6 Grinch. Of course, in 2010, Kobe was still in his prime, and every kid who watched the NBA already idolized him. And now, all of a sudden, he was going to get even more popular with the youth and adults by stepping onto the court in one of the loudest and most statement-making pairs of kicks we've ever seen. The Kobe 6 Grinches weren't actually called the Grinches. Instead, they were actually called the Green Mambas. But the sneakers debuted on Christmas, and the bright green captured the color of everyone's favorite Christmas villain, the Grinch. So it was a perfect nickname that stuck on immediately with everyone. It was also perfect for Kobe considering he was a bit of a Grinch himself on the court. The sneakers also featured bright red laces that could be swapped out for the standard green laces, which is exactly what Kobe did on Christmas Day 2010. Despite losing to the Heat in the debut of these sneakers, people everywhere were hyped about the Kobe 6 colorway. But there was also some talk about the sneakers of another famous player on the court. that being LeBron James. While not being nearly as iconic, Nike continued to make big leaps with bold colors on the Nike LeBron 7 Christmas. This shoe was loud, but it was simply overshadowed by the Grinches. It also didn't help that the Heat were already wearing red, so these didn't really stand out, and these sneakers were just completely consumed by the hype of the Grinches. 2011 brought more pretty popular releases, but it didn't quite top 2010. In 2011, Nike debuted the KD4 Christmas in a copper and black colorway that was supposedly inspired by cookie cutters. While being pretty darn popular, especially since KD was an emerging superstar, these weren't quite as iconic as other shoes that we'll be talking about. Kobe also had another Christmas sneaker this season. These were pretty popular as well. However, they didn't quite become an instant classic. Adidas also got into the festivities with their release of the Adidas Rose 2 Windy City. However, this wasn't really much of a Christmas colorway, it just kinda debuted on Christmas and was red, but still at least we got a fresh Christmas drop from Adidas. 2012 brought another wave of Christmas sneakers, with the headliners again being LeBron's and Kobe's. The LeBron 10 Christmas featured a mostly red upper with green accents, and the Kobe 8 Christmases were weird. Both sneakers were fairly popular with the public, however it did seem that the hype for Christmas sneakers was ever so slightly coming down. These releases just didn't hit the same as the Kobe Grinches, but that was a high bar to clear, and the Grinches wouldn't get any competition. That was until 2013, when we got the iconic image that sparked this whole video. The Nike KD 6 Christmas, LeBron 11 Christmas, and Kobe 8 SS Christmas were all highlighted in one photo that made every 4th through 12th grader lose their mind. There was something about those shiny metally colors on the LeBrons and KDs that looked so cool at the time. They were so futuristic looking, and of course neon and ridiculous colors were all the rage back then, and these took that to a whole new level. The Kobe 8 SS's, while being a little more toned down, still got a lot of praise too, but for whatever reason, those mint and red shiny sneakers just drove every kid crazy at the time, and for once, the Kobes weren't the focal point. Now, were these sneakers more hyped than the Grinches? No, not really. Despite being, in my opinion, the most iconic Christmas sneaker release as a whole, none of these shoes individually topped the Grinches or maybe even some of the other sneakers we've mentioned so far. But what made it so special was the image itself, the colorways, and the fact that they were LeBron's, Kobe's, and KD's all being dropped at once. And all of the signature athletes were still in their prime, at least for the most part. This was really the only time where Kobe, LeBron, and KD were all elite players at the same time. Prior to this season, KD was still KD, but his popularity and talent only went up, and of course, it was just before Kobe tore his Achilles and his career changed forever. Unfortunately, this iconic sneaker drop may have set the bar a little too high, at least for some, as the following years just didn't ever seem to clear that bar. To spare you from being here for hours, let's just run through some of the highlight releases from every year all the way up to present day. 2014, we got some solid releases like the Hyperdunks and Kyrie's, but nothing insane. The Kobe 9 Christmases dropped, which were pretty hyped, but maybe not as much as previous Kobe releases. 2015, we got another pair of Kyrie's, this time a little more hyped, and also some Kobe 10s that were kinda boring, but nothing else amazing. 2016, we got the Kobe 11 Christmases that a lot of people forgot about, and we got the D-Rose White Christmases and the LeBron 14s. Nothing insane. 2017, we got the KT3s. These were just not it. LeBron dropped some pink LeBron 15s. Again, nothing that stood out a ton. The LeBron 15s were cool, but they weren't really Christmassy. 2018, we got the Concept X Kyrie 5s, clean but not really Christmassy. We got the KD 11 Scrooge McDucks, which I kinda hated, to be honest. I mean, these are just weird looking. And then we got the PG 2.5 blue PlayStations, which were cool, but there's no Christmas theme. 2019, we got some awful looking wrapping paper themed Jordan 34s worn by Jason Tatum. We got the Anta GH1s themed to an ugly sweater, which were actually really cool but didn't get much attention. And that was really about it for the major headlining sneakers. In 2020, we got the LeBron 18s, pretty boring looking. We got the New Balance Kawhi Snowman, which I thought was actually really cool but didn't get much attention. And then we got the Chinese New Year Curries. They were decent, but they weren't Christmas themed, they were Chinese New Year themed. The only thing that people actually cared about in 2020 was the Protro of the Grinches, which is just a re-release of the sneaker that came out 10 years ago, and yet this was the only Christmas sneaker that people seemed to care about, which we'll get into more later. In 2021, Adidas really got into the action with the release of the Trey 1s and the Donahue 3 Christmases, and as much as I love Adidas, these were just not it, especially with what was going on with the uppers. I mean, I don't know what this graphic is and this print is, it was just too much. They took a swing, and I commend them for that, but they missed, and these were just not it. In 2022, we got the Ja 1 Christmases, and they looked like a Halloween sneaker, and then we got the LeBron 20 stocking stuffer, and then we got some New Balance two-way gingerbreads, which are actually pretty cool, but again, the New Balance sneakers just didn't get much attention. In 2023, we got the Dame 8 Extra Plays, which were fine. We got some terrible LeBron 21s, and again, the most popular shoe is a Kobe 6 in a reverse Grinch colorway. And again, this is just another Protro, but it did get at least a new colorway. And that brings us all the way up to date. Of course, I left out a ton of other colorways from each year, and if I left out something particularly special, feel free to let me know down in the comments, but that was just a summary that should give you some idea of what followed 2013. This video is releasing right before Christmas 2024, so we don't know for sure what to expect, but we have seen some AE1s that are kinda cool. And of course, the headliners yet again are just the re-releases from the Kobes and the KDs of the past. So what happened to Christmas sneakers? Where did the hype go, and why do people no longer seem to care like they used to? Well, there's not a simple answer to that, but I can give you my opinion on the matter, which I think can clear some things up. In my opinion, a big part of the reason that we're so nostalgic for those early Christmas releases is because it was just so new. From 2009 to 2013, these bright and festive sneakers on the court were still a newly implemented rule. For years, there was just black and white sneakers on Christmas Day, but now, every single year, we had something fun and festive to look forward to. It also helped that from 2009 to 2013, the NBA had some of its best Christmas Day games and storylines. We had LeBron go to the Heat and play multiple Christmas games with them, Kobe winning back-to-back titles with the Lakers and making them fun to watch on Christmas again, KD emerging as a star where he seemed to always be elite on Christmas, and then we had Derrick Rose playing out of his mind as another emerging superstar. And guess what? All of these players had signature sneakers at the time, and this wasn't like today where almost any solid player can get a signature sneaker deal. At the time, signature shoes were rare and exciting, so when a new colorway dropped, it was easy to track. In the 2023-24 season, 26 NBA players had a signature shoe. That's an NBA record high. So when 20 or so of them drop a half-baked Christmas colorway, it just doesn't hit the same as it did back in the day when it was only 3 or 4. And that's really the other major reason I think we don't care as much anymore. Oversaturation. Look at how many Christmas sneakers we already have. There's hundreds and hundreds of Christmas colorways that span across all of the major sneaker brands. Once you buy a pair of Christmas sneakers, are you really going to be that inclined to go out and buy future colorways every year or multiple in one year? Back in 2013, that picture was so cool because people would always ask, which one are you gonna get? Nowadays, not only do they not announce all the sneakers at once, but even if they did, it would just be a mess. You'd be looking at 20 plus pairs of sneakers all themed to the same holiday, and at that point, it's just too much and too overwhelming. So with that, I think that the nostalgia for Christmas sneakers is actually pretty valid, especially for the photo that is always finding its way into my feed every single year. While these shoes aren't anything that special in retrospect, they do showcase how much simpler things were for sneakers and life as a whole. Now it's all about more, and I'm not trying to turn this into some think piece, but really, in 2024, everything is about consuming more. More media, more sneakers, more colorways, more everything. So as silly as it seems, for me personally, when I see this image, I don't feel nostalgia for the sneakers as much as I feel nostalgic for the time it encapsulates. And I think that's why we love to reminisce on these shoes. Just look at the Kobe 6 Grinches. When they re-released in 2020, they broke the internet again. Despite being almost 15 years old, these shoes are still far and beyond the most popular Christmas sneakers ever. And I don't mean to be entirely negative, as we don't know what the future will hold. Maybe this oversaturation in the market will cause things to slow down again. Maybe companies will realize that you sell more when you have quality over quantity, especially Nike. It seems like they're in a bad habit of throwing things at the wall and hoping that they stick. Maybe soon we will finally see them focus on creating the best product possible and not as many products possible. So yeah, that just about wraps up my thoughts on this image right here. Ever since I saw it, I knew I wanted to do a Christmas video on it, and I hope that it gave you some nostalgia on previous Christmas releases, just like it did for me. Like I said earlier, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe because it helps out a ton, and pretty soon I'm going to be dropping my next episode of Cancelled Kicks on Kyrie's sneaker line. It's an absolute banger and a huge video, so be sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys very soon.
Merry Christmas!